3 minutes ago, something happened that will change everything you thought you knew about power, protection, and the people who decide what truths stay buried. Adam Schiff did something no one expected him to do. He opened a file in front of millions of viewers, live on national television, and he started reading, word for word, line by line, name by name. You should have seen Kash Patel's face. That confident mask he wears so well, the one that says, "I have everything under control," it didn't just crack, it shattered. What replaced it was something I've only seen a few times in my years covering Washington. Pure, unadulterated panic frozen on the face of a man who just realized he's been caught. This video is critical. You need to watch until the very end because the names Schiff reads and Patel's reaction to each one will change how you see everything. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. What I'm about to show you will be on every news channel within hours, but you're seeing it first. Let me set the scene for you because context matters here. Senate Intelligence Committee, afternoon session, January 17th, 2026. It was supposed to be routine, budget discussions, personnel updates, operational reviews, the kind of hearing that C-SPAN plays and nobody watches. Boring, bureaucratic theater. Senator Adam Schiff walked into that room with very different plans, and if you know anything about Adam Schiff, you know that's when things get dangerous for people trying to hide something. For those unfamiliar with Schiff, let me give you the quick version. California Senator, former federal prosecutor, the man who led Trump's first impeachment trial. Adam Schiff knows how to read documents, present evidence, and build an airtight case. He's methodical, he's patient, and he doesn't ask questions he doesn't already know the answers to. You really don't want him questioning you if you've got something to hide. Kash Patel should have known that. He should have been prepared, but he wasn't. And that mistake just cost him everything. The hearing started normally enough. The first hour went exactly as everyone expected. Republican senators asked their pre-written questions about counterterrorism operations and Chinese cyber threats. Democratic senators probed civil rights concerns and whistleblower protections. Patel sat there looking relaxed, comfortable even. He gave his usual answers, vague when he needed to be, specific when it served his purposes, running out the clock with bureaucratic language that sounds like he's saying something while actually saying nothing at all. His posture was perfect. His tone was measured. He maintained that professional demeanor he's so good at projecting. But I noticed something. Adam Schiff sat quietly through all of it. He didn't jump in with questions like some of the other senators. He just sat there, occasionally taking notes, a thin folder closed on the desk in front of him. If you've covered enough of these hearings, you recognize that pattern. Schiff was waiting, watching, letting Patel get comfortable, letting him think he was going to skate through another congressional appearance with nothing more than the usual partisan back and forth. Then it was Schiff's turn. Chairman Dick Durbin recognized him for questioning at exactly 2:47 p.m. The energy in the room shifted immediately. You could feel it. Reporters sat up straighter. Staff members stopped typing. Even the other senators turned their attention to what was about to happen. "Director Patel," Schiff began, his voice calm, almost friendly. "Today I want to discuss some newly released documents." Patel's eyebrow raised slightly, just a fraction, but it was there. "What documents, Senator?" "The Epstein files that were released last night at 11 p.m. The temperature in that room dropped about 20 degrees in the span of 5 seconds. Everyone felt it. That electric tension that comes right before something significant happens. The reporters leaned forward. The cameras zoomed in. This wasn't going to be routine anymore. Patel shook his head, trying to regain control. "Senator, those documents are part of routine disclosure processes that—" Schiff cut him off with a short, sharp laugh. Not a friendly laugh, a prosecutor's laugh. "Director, we fought for 3 years to get these documents released. 3 separate court decisions, 2 congressional subpoenas. The FBI opposed us at every turn. You personally signed objections claiming national security concerns, and now you want to call that routine?" Patel didn't respond. He just waited, which was probably the smartest thing he'd done all day, but it wouldn't save him. Schiff opened his folder with the kind of deliberate precision that says, "I've been preparing for this moment for a very long time." "With your permission," Schiff said, though it clearly wasn't a request, "I'd like to read portions of these documents into the congressional record." One of Patel's attorneys stood up immediately, starting to move toward the microphone. Schiff didn't even look at him. "These are public documents," Schiff continued. "As of last night, the classification has been lifted. The confidentiality is gone. Anyone can read them now. I'm simply reading them aloud for this committee and for the American people watching at home." He turned to the first page. Document date, March 14th, 2008. FBI Palm Beach Field Office. Subject: individuals observed at Epstein residence during surveillance operation. Then Schiff started reading names. The first name I didn't recognize. Some hedge fund manager, probably. The second name meant nothing to me either. But by the third name, something changed. Patel's hand, which had been resting casually on the witness table, slowly lifted and moved to his lap. His fingers were gripping the edge of the table. When Schiff read the fourth name, which I can't repeat here for legal reasons, Patel's face went white. Actually white. The color just drained right out of it. Fifth name. Sixth name. Seventh name. With each name, Patel seemed to shrink a little more in his chair. The confident FBI director was disappearing before our eyes, replaced by someone who looked like he wanted to be anywhere else in the world. "Page 7, Schiff said, turning the document. "Witness testimony. Date, August 22nd, 2009. This part was different. This wasn't just a list of names anymore. This was a statement from a woman who had worked at Epstein's residence. She described what she saw, who she met, what they did. The details are too graphic for me to share here, but what I can tell you is this. That testimony contained everything powerful people have spent years and millions of dollars trying to keep buried. And Schiff read every word of it. Patel reached for his water glass. His hand was trembling, actually trembling. When he picked up the glass, water sloshed over the side, spilling onto the witness table. He took a sip, but you could see his throat working, struggling to swallow. Now I'm going to pause for just a second. If you've watched this far, you understand why this matters. This isn't just another political hearing. This is the moment when hidden truths start breaking through the walls that have protected them. So do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Not just for the algorithm, but because YouTube needs to show this to more people. Write in the comments what you're thinking. This conversation needs to reach everyone. Okay, let's continue. Schiff kept reading. Page 12. FBI Internal Correspondence. Date, January 3rd, 2010. From Special Agent in Charge, Miami Division. To Assistant Special Agent in Charge, Palm Beach Resident Agency. Subject, instruction to limit scope of investigation. Schiff looked up from the document, making direct eye contact with Patel. Limit the scope of the investigation. What does that mean, Director? Patel's voice came out weak. Senator, that document is 15 years old. I wasn't with the FBI at that time. I didn't ask when it was written, Schiff replied, his voice hardening. I asked what it means. Silence. Patel said absolutely nothing. Let me help you, Schiff said, holding the document up so the cameras could capture it. This memo instructs FBI field agents to exclude certain individuals from the scope of the investigation. The original version had names redacted, blacked out, but in this newly released version, the redactions have been removed. 3 names are now clearly visible. Then Schiff read those 3 names. The room heard them. I heard them. Millions of people watching at home heard them. And Kash Patel heard them. He physically recoiled in his chair like he'd been slapped. His shoulders hunched. His head dropped slightly. The man looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Director Patel, Schiff said, and now his voice carried real anger. Do you recognize these names? I wasn't at the FBI when… I didn't ask where you were, Schiff interrupted. I asked if you recognize these names. Senator, I don't want to speculate on… It's not speculation. Schiff's fist came down on the desk with a bang that made everyone in the room jump. This is an official FBI document, your institution's document, and it shows that the FBI deliberately protected certain powerful individuals from the Epstein investigation. He stood up, the folder still in his hand. And you, Director Patel, have done everything in your power to keep these documents secret. For 11 months you fought us. You appealed every court decision. You opposed every subpoena. You claimed national security for every single request. Schiff pointed directly at Patel. National security. That's what you called it. But national security isn't about protecting the nation, is it, Director? It's about protecting the people named in these files. The committee room descended into chaos. Not complete chaos, but close. Whispers erupted in the gallery. Reporters were frantically typing on their phones, sending alerts to their newsrooms. Committee members were looking at each other with expressions that ranged from shock to vindication. And Patel just sat there. That look on his face. I've seen it before, dozens of times, hundreds of times in my years covering Washington scandals and congressional hearings. It's the look of a man who's been caught. The look of someone who knows there's no way out. The look of someone who just watched their entire carefully constructed defense collapse in real time. But Schiff wasn't done yet. There's one more document, he said, his voice dropping lower, quieter, which somehow made it more menacing. Page 23. This document was classified as top secret, special access required, until last night at 11 p.m. He turned to that page with deliberate slowness, letting the tension build. Document date, July 11th, 2019. That's 5 days after Jeffrey Epstein's arrest. Document title, Vulnerable Witnesses Protection Protocol. Patel's attorney jumped to his feet immediately. Senator, reading that document in open session would jeopardize ongoing investigations and compromise witness safety. Schiff's response was ice cold. What ongoing investigations? Epstein is dead. Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison. The FBI hasn't charged a single client. Not one. 4 years have passed. So I'll ask you again, what investigation? The attorney sat down. He had no answer. Schiff began reading. List of vulnerable witnesses requiring maximum protection priority. Then he read the names. Not the witnesses. The names of the people the witnesses had testified about. The people the FBI was apparently protecting instead of investigating. I'm going to be honest with you. When I heard those names, my jaw dropped. Are they the names you're thinking of? Some of them, yes, but not all of them. Some were names I never expected to hear. Names that made me realize why these files had been kept secret for so long. Names that explained everything. Why the FBI fought so hard to keep these documents classified. Why Patel opposed every congressional demand for transparency. Why the Bureau kept saying ongoing investigation for 4 years without ever bringing charges against anyone. Everything suddenly made sense. Schiff closed the folder. Director Patel, he said, his voice now calm again, almost sad. I'm going to ask you a direct question. And before you answer, I want you to look at the millions of Americans watching this hearing right now. Not at the lawyers sitting behind you, not at your staff, at the American people. The pause felt like it lasted forever. Has the FBI launched any investigations into any of the individuals named in these documents? Silence. Complete silence. Patel sat there like the question hadn't even been asked. Director? It wouldn't be appropriate for me to comment on potential ongoing investigations in an open… Not appropriate to comment, Schiff repeated, nodding slowly. The American people ask you a simple question. Are you investigating Jeffrey Epstein's accomplices, the men who exploited those girls? And you say it's not appropriate to comment. Schiff gathered his documents. I think that's an answer too, Director. The clearest answer you've given all day. It's an admission that the FBI is not investigating Epstein's clients. not investigating the powerful men who are named in witness testimony, not investigating anyone, because those men are too important, too connected, too powerful to touch. He looked at Patel one last time. History will judge you, Director Patel, and these documents, every word I read today, will be the evidence at that trial. The hearing technically continued after that, but nobody was paying attention to anything else. The damage was done. The bomb had been dropped. Adam Schiff had just read into the congressional record, live on television, in front of millions of viewers, the documents that had been hidden for years. He named names. He presented evidence. He exposed the FBI's protection protocol. And Patel sat there, drenched in sweat, unable to provide a single convincing answer. He was just a body in a chair at that point. The confident FBI director who walked into that hearing room was gone. Within minutes, the clip was everywhere. Twitter exploded. TikTok exploded. Cable news channels interrupted their regular programming. Breaking: FBI director unable to explain witness protection for Epstein associates. Schiff exposes FBI documents naming powerful figures. Patel goes silent when asked about Epstein investigation. Legal analysts immediately started weighing in. Constitutional law professors, former federal prosecutors, intelligence community veterans. The consensus was unanimous. This was a devastating moment for the FBI's credibility. By evening, the hashtag #ReleaseAllTheFiles was trending with over 4 million tweets. Advocacy groups for trafficking survivors issued statements demanding answers. Members of Congress from both parties started calling for Inspector General investigations. And in Washington, in those powerful offices where decisions about what information the public gets to know are made, phones were ringing off the hook. You can bet on that. This isn't going away. The door that Schiff opened today can't be closed. The names have been read into the official congressional record. They're public now. The witness testimonies describing what happened at Epstein's properties are public now. The FBI memo instructing agents to exclude certain people from investigations is public now. I don't know where this goes from here. I really don't. I've been covering Washington long enough to know that powerful people have a remarkable ability to make scandals disappear. The news cycle moves fast. Public attention spans are short. Maybe in a few weeks, this gets buried under the next crisis. Maybe people forget. But maybe not. Maybe this time is different. Maybe the evidence is too clear. Maybe the names are too big. Maybe the public anger is too strong. Maybe the victims and survivors who've been ignored for so long finally get the justice they've been demanding. What I know for certain is this. Kash Patel walked into that hearing room as the director of the FBI, confident and in control. He walked out as a man whose career is hanging by a thread, whose credibility is shattered, who couldn't answer the simplest question: are you investigating these crimes? And Adam Schiff just made sure that every American knows it. 5 minutes. That's all it took. 5 minutes to read documents that had been hidden for years. 5 minutes to speak names that people spent millions trying to keep secret. 5 minutes to expose a protection protocol that valued powerful connections over justice for victims. 5 minutes to demolish an FBI director's entire defense. If you found this video valuable, make sure you watch the other videos on this channel where we break down exactly how these protection systems work and who benefits from them. Subscribe so you don't miss the follow-up as this story develops, because it will develop. And share this video with everyone you know. Not for clicks, not for views, because people deserve to know the truth, because survivors deserve justice, because the powerful shouldn't be above the law. The truth is coming out, and after today, there's no putting it back. But let me tell you something that most people don't understand about moments like this. What you just witnessed wasn't spontaneous. Adam Schiff didn't just walk into that hearing room and decide to start reading classified documents on a whim. This was planned, meticulously planned. And that planning reveals something even more important about what's happening behind the scenes in Washington right now. Think about the timing. These documents were declassified at 11 p.m. the night before the hearing. That's not an accident. Someone made that decision. Someone with authority decided that after years of fighting to keep these files secret, after multiple court battles and congressional subpoenas, after claiming national security exemptions, it was suddenly time to let the public see what was really in those files. Who made that call? That's the question everyone should be asking right now. Was it a judge who finally got tired of the FBI's stalling tactics? Was it someone inside the intelligence community who couldn't stomach the cover-up anymore? Was it political pressure from the new administration? Or was it something else entirely? I've been doing this long enough to know that nothing happens by accident in Washington. Documents don't just get declassified overnight without someone very powerful making that decision. And the fact that it happened less than 12 hours before Patel had to testify, that tells me someone wanted him exposed. Someone wanted these names made public. Someone wanted the American people to see exactly what their FBI has been protecting all these years. And here's what really keeps me up at night. If these documents are this damaging, what else is still hidden? The files that Schiff read today represent just a fraction of what the FBI collected during the Epstein investigation. We're talking about thousands of pages of witness testimony, surveillance reports, financial records, flight logs, phone records, emails. What's in the rest of those files? What names haven't been revealed yet? What evidence is still being protected? Because make no mistake, what Schiff read today was carefully selected. These were the documents that could be made public without compromising ongoing intelligence operations or diplomatic relationships. The truly explosive material, the stuff that would bring down governments and destroy careers at the highest levels, that's still locked away somewhere. And after today's performance, you have to wonder, how long will it stay locked away? I want to bring your attention to something specific that happened during that hearing. Something you might have missed if you were focused on Patel's reaction. When Schiff was reading the FBI internal memo about limiting the scope of the investigation, watch the other senators' faces. The Republicans who'd been defending Patel all morning suddenly went very quiet. They stopped making objections. They stopped interrupting. They just sat there, listening to Schiff read those names, and you could see it in their expressions. They knew what this meant. They understood that their political ally, the man they'd been protecting, had just become a massive liability. And the Democrats? They weren't celebrating. That's what struck me. There was no triumphalism, no fist pumping. They looked grim, angry, like they'd just confirmed something they'd suspected for years but hoped wasn't true. That the institution they'd trusted to pursue justice had instead been protecting the powerful from accountability. That bipartisan moment of recognition, that shared understanding that something had gone terribly wrong at the FBI, that might be the most significant thing that happened today. Because when both parties agree on something in 2026, you know it's real. Now let's talk about what happens next, because this is far from over. Patel will try to survive this. His lawyers are probably already drafting statements about out of context and partisan attacks and compromising national security. The FBI's Public Affairs Office will release carefully worded responses that say nothing while sounding official. Conservative media will rally around him, calling this a witch hunt, the usual playbook. But here's the thing. That playbook doesn't work when the evidence is this clear. You can't claim something is out of context when a senator reads the entire document on live television. You can't call it partisan when members of your own party are quietly distancing themselves. You can't hide behind national security when the documents have been officially declassified. Patel's in an impossible position now. If he resigns, it looks like an admission of guilt. If he stays, every congressional hearing from now on will be about this. Every media appearance will be haunted by those names. Every time he tries to talk about FBI successes, someone will ask, "But what about the Epstein investigation? Why haven't you charged anyone?" And the survivors, the victims who've been fighting for justice for years, They're not going to let this go. I've already seen statements from their attorneys. They're demanding that the Department of Justice Inspector General open an investigation into FBI handling of the Epstein case. They want to know why witnesses were never called, why grand juries were never convened, why evidence was buried instead of pursued. They want answers. And after today, they have the momentum to get them.